You guys asked me a bunch of questions on YouTube and on Instagram, and I'm gonna answer them all today. And I've got the help of my friend Curious Tom. Hi, it's Curious Tom here. Now Curious Tom is gonna ask your questions to me, and he's gonna do it in a number of accents. And you can try and guess what accent he's doing, but to be honest, I don't think he knows what accent he's doing, so good luck with that. Ooh. No, I'm just saying, you know. All right, let's get going. Okay, first question. Andres Sebastian Hernandez Gonzalez asks how to pronounce these words. I don't know. Okay, weren't, won't, want. So weren't, earned, weren't, won't, that O sound, won't, and want, that O sound, want. Weren't, won't, want. Boom! Next one. Congratulations. Thank you. Alright. Don't get too up yourself. English is your first language after all. Yeah, alright. Irene asks, could you tell me about your favourite books or writers? My favourite books and writers? Well, one of my favourite books is not that one. Alright, sorry. Okay. My favourite writer, probably my favourite writer is someone called Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. And she's written several books. I've read 3 of them. Americana, which was amazing, Half of the Yellow Sun, and her Feminist Manifesto. Those 3 books, definitely some of my favourite. She's an incredible writer. I also like Ernest Hemingway. I've read lots of his books, especially growing up and in my 20s. He was an adventurer and used his words to paint pictures. I remember reading Fiesta, The Sun Also Rises, when I was living in Spain, and it described the Pamplona running of the bulls, and it just, his words just completely captured my imagination, and I could see exactly what he was describing. So Hemingway is definitely another one of my favourite writers. RAF, or RAF, where in England do people roll their R's? Maybe they mean Britain. You can expand it to Britain. Where in Britain do people roll their R's? Ah, the rolling R. Now, British English is generally non-rhotic, so we don't pronounce the R sound after vowels. But in Scotland, in some Scottish accents, and actually I think in Liverpool as well, there is something called the alveolar tap. It's a tapped R. So it's right and wrong. It's very subtle. In some speakers, it's stronger, and in most speakers it's quite subtle and not that noticeable. But yeah, nothing as strong as a rolling R like you might have in Spanish, let's say. But yeah, there's that tapped R, right, wrong, stuff like that. But I think it's one of those sounds that is very much up to the individual whether they use it or not. I've got one here from Misty Bralista. Well, 3 actually. Your favorite Disney movie? Okay, Lion King. Your favorite Indian celebrity? Amitabh Bachchan. Mine too. And your favorite place in Britain that you could recommend to everyone to go, to visit? Cornwall. Honestly, Cornwall is beautiful. It's in the southwest of England. It has rugged coastlines, beautiful beaches, very quaint seaside towns. Especially in the summer, Cornwall is my favorite place in Britain. Oh, Cornwall's lovely. I totally agree, yes. I would also go there. Devon, Cornwall, all beautiful down there, yeah. Right, number 5. Danielle Skynmisser. Is the English accent in songs the same in speaking? It's a good question. I'd like to know. Is it? I don't know. Is it? This is a great question, and one that I'm actually answering in a video that will be coming out next week, because I'm fascinated as to why some singers change their accent when they're singing and some singers keep their accent. So for example, if you take Adele, her spoken voice, her accent is typically London, so Cockney, with Cockney features. When she sings, it's completely different. I love that, and I'm fascinated to know why. So next week I'll be bringing you that video. All right, next question. Monday Showing Crystal Stayarsk. What's the most British behavior you think you have? Knowing you, I'd say probably getting sunburnt, no? This is such a great question. I would have to say communicating in an indirect way. So not saying exactly what you think or you feel or you want, but instead like finding the long way around what you're trying to say. I had a friend from America and she would always get quite frustrated with me in the long-winded way that I would express my feelings. So I would say, well, the thing is that I've just been feeling recently that, and it's not my fault, maybe it's not your fault, but just that, you know how sometimes and she'd just be like, what do you want to say to me? Like, tell me directly how you're feeling and your emotion. I think that's quite a British thing. If you've seen any Hugh Grant film, you'll know that the typical Englishman is very inarticulate and unable to express their feelings.
Look, sorry. I just, well, this is a really stupid question, and particularly in view of our recent shopping excursion. But I just wondered if by any chance, I mean, obviously not, because I'm kid who's only slept with 9 people, but I just wondered.
I think I'm getting better, but I definitely do struggle. Okay, Vicky De La Salle asks, why sometimes is it difficult to understand some accents? What's the trick? Any idea? Yeah, it can be really difficult to understand some accents, and particularly when someone speaks with a strong or heavy accent. I think the main tip for me, if you want to improve your listening, is to focus on your pronunciation. And so to understand the sounds that someone would make. So studying an accent and all the pronunciation features in that accent will then help you to understand when someone speaks with an accent. So if you know, for example, that in a Yorkshire accent they drop their H's, then you'll know that when they say ow, they mean how, or ouse, they mean house. So studying the pronunciation features of an accent will help you when you are listening to them. Also, just accepting that sometimes there will be times when you miss a word, you can't catch everything. When I listen to someone with a very strong Glaswegian accent, I'm not going to catch every word, every sound, because I'm not used to the accent, and maybe they swallow syllables and consonants and vowels even. And so I think it's teaching yourself to be comfortable in the ambiguity, to be comfortable in knowing that you're not going to get every single sound of every single word, that you will lose some sounds, some words, but you need to focus on the general meaning of a sentence. And I think that's the way to do it. Okay, got a question here from Pablis_98. What was the weirdest thing you saw when you came to Argentina? And what did you like most about it? Okay, so I lived in Argentina, in Buenos Aires for 1 year. I was teaching English over there. Had an incredible time. The weirdest thing that I saw was a religious theme park called Tierra Santa. And it was a recreation of Jerusalem. So you could walk around as if you were on the streets of Jerusalem 2,000 years ago. There was the manger where Jesus was born. They had the crucifixion. They recreated lots of stories from the Bible. It was a very interesting and, yeah, a bit weird, because I think the weirdness comes from the fact that A, I'd never been to a religious theme park. I didn't know they existed. And B, it was right in the heart of Buenos Aires. So the city was right there, like the buildings, the skyscrapers, and then where you were was like as if you were back in Jerusalem in the 2,000 years ago. So that was quite a strange juxtaposition of old and new. If you're in Buenos Aires, definitely worth a visit. And what I like most in Argentina, the people. The people were incredible, so friendly, so warm, just generous with their time. I had such a great time there. Okay, this comes from Ariana Grande, who says, would you recommend an exchange year to the UK? And if yes, where should you go? Huh? The Ariana Grande. Yeah, I think it is the Ariana Grande. Yeah. She's a peach. I love her. Whoa. Okay, cool. Hey. Yeah, absolutely. Of course, I would recommend an exchange year in Britain. Obviously, current situation, it's not a perfect time to come, but hopefully once this pandemic ends, then yes, absolutely an exchange year in Britain would be amazing. I don't know how old you are. I don't know what your interests are. So that would probably determine where I would recommend. I mean, London, obviously, I'm biased. I live here. It's an incredible city. So diverse, so multicultural, so much to explore, to see, to do. If you love big cities, London, absolutely. Although, having said that, I think I went to university in Leeds, and what I loved about Leeds, it's in Yorkshire, is that it's big but it's small, if you know what I mean. It's the right size, so there was lots going on, great music, great culture, but also it felt manageable. You could say to a friend, I'll see you in the centre in 15 minutes, and you could both be in the centre quite quickly. So I think Brighton is a beautiful city. I recommend there. Oxford, Cambridge, obviously fantastic places. Leeds, for me as a student, was a wonderful place to be. So yeah, I mean, there's loads of fantastic places. Edinburgh, I think, is one of my favourite cities. Certainly, that would be a great place to study. It gets a bit cold in winter and in summer, but yeah, Edinburgh as well. So many options for you. A question coming in from Chase M, yeah? Chase M says, what were some of your favourite British bands growing up? Inform us, yeah? Okay, well, it's compulsory in Britain to listen to the Rolling Stones and the Beatles when you're a child. Certainly when I was growing up, they were the bands that were being played in the house. Every road trip we went on, we listened to the Beatles, to the Rolling Stones. Also, we listened to Elton John, David Bowie, Pink Floyd, classic 1960s, 70s bands. As I started to get more interested in music, I listened to different things. So one of my personal favorites was The Clash, an incredible punk band from the 1970s. I also got into a band called Madness, who played two-tone ska. They were from Camden Town, which is quite near where I grew up, so I loved Madness. And then later on, when I was at university, the Arctic Monkeys. They released their first album, I think, in 2005, which was when I was just leaving university. It hit at the perfect time. Derek Gallagher, he asks, what passport do people who were born in Northern Ireland hold? It's a good question, I don't know. Okay, this is a great question. So, in Northern Ireland, if you were born in Northern Ireland, you are entitled to a British passport, to an Irish passport, or to both. And that is because of something called the Good Friday Agreement, which was signed in 1998. And that brought together all the different political parties within Northern Ireland, the British government and the Irish government. Okay guys, thank you so much for listening to me rabbit on for however long it's been. Thank you for your questions, I really appreciate them. There were so many that I couldn't answer. I will obviously have to do a second video. But until next time, this is Tom, the Chief Dreamer, saying goodbye.